Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the City of Oxnard Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for July 23rd. Time is 8:32. Madam Assistant Clerk, do you have any statement you'd like to read? Please.
Yes, Chair Perello. The public may view the meeting from home on Spectrum Channel 10, Frontier Channel 35, or at youtube.com/Oxnard News. Video recordings of the meeting are typically available online following the meeting at the city's website. The public may participate in the meeting in the following ways. 1. Attend the meeting in person at 305 West 3rd Street and submit a speaker card to the city clerk. 2. Submit a request to speak remotely by no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting by using the form available at www.oxnard.org/citymeetings. And 3. Submit an email to cityclerk@oxnard.org or contact City Clerk's office at 805-385-7803 no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. To provide public comment during the meeting, please dial 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID and passcode located on the agenda. Public comments will be taken following the announcement of the item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant City Clerk. We'll take the roll, posting of the agenda, and the flag salute. In that order, please.
Member Valenzuela?
Present.
Member Zaragoza?
Present.
Chair Perello?
Here.
We have a quorum. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board on July 16, 2024.
You please stand and we'll pledge allegiance to the flag of our nation. Place your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving to the first item on the agenda, public comments not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments not on the agenda?
Chair Perello, we do not have any public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you very much. Moving to the next item on the agenda, C1, the consent agenda. City Clerk Department, approval of the minutes. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes for the July 9th, 2024 regular meeting as presented. Do we have any public comments on those minutes, Madam Clerk?
Chair Perello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Do my committee members have any suggestions, changes, or things they would like to pull or add?
None for me, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, in that case, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is D is reports number 1. The Public Works Department is, excuse me, Public Works Department, subject, Public Project Agreement 325-00030 with ADA General Engineering Incorporated for on-call sidewalk, curb, and gutter, and spandrel grinding services. It's a rebid. Specifications number SD24-101R. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the agreement with ADA General Engineering Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $500,000 for a 3-year term for on-call sidewalk, curb, and gutter, and spandrel grinding services. A rebid. Specifications number SD24-101R. Again, the voters approved Measure M. There will not be a presentation, but there was an excellent video presentation. I hope that some people have had an opportunity to watch. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
Chair Perello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, I would just like to bring one thing to the public's attention. I had to look it up, and now I'm going to find it.
I think I know what this is.
The thing is called Spandrel, Spandrel. So I'm like, what is that? So I look it up, and the definition is, and this is out of Oxford's Language Dictionary, the almost triangular space between one side of the outer curb of an arc, a wall, and ceiling or framework. The square between the shoulders of adjoining arches and the ceiling or molding above. A lot of engineering people and construction in the audience. If they asked me what it was before I looked it up, I had no idea at all. So I'm just sharing that with you. So do we have any questions from the committee members on this?
Yeah, I had the same, I wanted to find out what that meant, so I looked it up, I Googled it, and I would like to see a picture of it, but anyway.
So just for clarification, if you can imagine yourself standing on a corner of a sidewalk, and there's a cross gutter that runs across the street and connects to the other sidewalk, right? That triangular piece of that cross gutter that touches the arc of the corner of the sidewalk is called the spandrel,
Oh, okay.
because it's a triangular piece. But basically, it's part of the cross gutter, the water conveyance across the street. It's that little triangular piece.
Okay.
Okay, so this, that's good. I looked it up too, so that's what it said, but it didn't have no pictures, which, but this is a curb and gutter and grinding services, Steve, that this company, ADA General Engineering, is going to be on call. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair Perillo and Mayor Zaragoza, that is correct.
Yeah. I think we need it anyway. I mean, it's an on-call item, and it's 3 years for $500,000, which is, and if we don't call them, we still have $500,000 after 3 years?
Correct. We're either going to run out of the term or we're going to run out of money, one of the two. But as the report says, in the past 3 years, we did just under 44,000 grinds. This type of work encapsulates about 80% of the sidewalk work that we do throughout the city. So between the general fund sidewalks and the special district sidewalks, we have enough work to keep the contractor busy.
Is that the type of grinding where the sidewalks are offset?
Exactly. So
Okay.
any variance that's between 1/4 of an inch to a 2-inch variance can use this method for treating. However, for each site inspection, the contractor and the City Streets Division takes a look at it to be sure that the grinding is the most appropriate application, or if we have to do a complete panel replacement. Doing this saves a lot of money for the city and buys a lot of time for us just to be able to grind it and then.
And tripping accidents too.
Correct. That's
good. That's the
one of
whole
the main
idea.
purposes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the report. Aside from learning the definition, a couple of things I'd like to point out. I am aware that the city of Oxnard has ground, and I did find interesting up to 2 inches. If we take 2 inches of a sidewalk and grind it down, say there's a raise, and we take 2 inches, how much is left of that sidewalk before we have to worry about the sidewalk snapping off or breaking?
Chair Perillo, it depends on the concrete location, so it's not just sidewalks, it could also be driveways. So your standard sidewalk is a 4-inch, whereas a driveway can go up to a 6-inch, just depending on what the capacity is. Is it going to be something that heavy equipment drives across? In that case, it's usually a 6-inch profile, whereas a sidewalk is generally a 4-inch profile. That's why we put the maximum grind at 2 inches, because once you get past 2 inches, then it starts to impact the structural integrity of the concrete, to where if a heavy piece of machinery now drives over what was once a 4-inch section to a 2-inch section, it's most likely that it will crack. So 2 inches is the maximum. If we ever run into a situation where we have to take out more than 2 inches, that's when the streets crew will go out and determine if we need to cut out a panel and re-pour.
And I am aware of that in areas in my district, specifically Spyglass Trail in the River Ridge neighborhood. There's a tremendous amount of work that was done on a certain short section, most of it caused by trees, but the trees had really raised cane with the pan going into the driveway, the curb and gutter, and the sidewalk, and there had been grinding, but it was past the point of no return, and so they had to take it out and put new concrete. A lot of good work, but it was something we were able to buy time, and the residents were really jazzed about that. We talk about the grinding on the concrete. Do we ever grind the asphalt streets? And the reason I ask, there was an issue with the West Village neighborhood on Snow where the roots were lifting the street, and it ended up being a tremendous repair job. Does this grinding, because I didn't see where they talk about asphalt.
Chair Perello, that would be a different on-call service, so we would generally go with one of our asphalt contractors, or
Okay.
we would go with our streets crew using one of their two teams. Brian Yanez could probably expand further on the two teams that we have operating that could also provide that level of service in-house. For this contract, it is specifically for the grinding of the concrete walkways
Okay, thank
and
you.
the curb and gutters.
And it mentions several things. It mentions the depth of what the grinding can be and the maximum. It mentions that they do what they can to get a little extra time. Sometimes we have to ramp with asphalt temporarily if we can't do it overnight, and very few things we can do overnight unless real emergencies. So I appreciate that. One other point that I'd like to, it also mentions on page 10 that it's, and identifies it in the actual body of it, this is a rebid. What does it mean, non-performance related issues? And I'd ask the city attorney to address that without getting into the technicality of anything going on, but just for the general public, somebody might think, well, the Oxnard never pays enough attention, or nobody's watching their P's and Q's. I think we are, and I think this is an excellent example and an opportunity to inform some people.
Yeah, when you're talking about performance or non-performance related issues, we're talking about adhering to the terms and conditions in the contract, and specifically in the scope of work. So basically, in order to avoid that sort of situation, they need to do the work that is contracted for, that's stated in the scope of work, or that would be issued by the project manager underneath our task order system. And they also need to submit proper documentation that shows the work that they did, and in terms of the invoicing, that the invoice needs to match the work that they did. They also need to contact their PMs with any requests for clarification or information on their roles or responsibilities. And lastly, they do need to manage the job in a timely and organized manner. So as long as you're doing all that, you can avoid performance-related issues.
Thank you. And my understanding is we have people in Public Works that go out and check. It's not just that we turn the contractor loose to do something. There are parties in Public Works that check that the work is being done according to the rules of the road.
Correct, Chair Perello. And then in addition to checking the work that's being done, the contractor per this agreement is to provide weekly reports of the work that was done, so staff could also go out and verify. And then that also helps us with the billing. So certain areas would be billed to a specific assessment district, others would be to the streets division. So this is a way that we can also track the work and make sure that the billing is done appropriately.
That's an excellent point. I didn't think to ask that. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Mr. Howlett, because there are various areas of the city of Oxnard, residents think that they're getting charged, and we're trying to do it exactly the way the book goes. Madam Clerk, has anybody called in for?
Chair Perello, no.
Okay. Before we move on, I want to thank the parties that were involved in this. Mr. Yanis, Mr. Howlett, Mr. Schweider, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, I apologize, and Mr. Miller, involved in putting this thing together. Do we have a recommendation or any further questions?
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. Next item, D2. This is annual purchase order with Famcon Pipe and Supply Incorporated and Ferguson Enterprises, LLC, for water infrastructure parts and supplies. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommends the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to execute annual purchase orders for the supply of water infrastructure parts and supplies for the following. Number one, Famco Pipe and Supply Incorporated for a total not to exceed an amount of $3 million through June 30th, 2027. And number two, Ferguson Enterprises LLC for a total not to exceed a value of $3 million through June 30th, 2027. Again, there is a Measure M because of Measure M, there is a video presentation. There will not be a presentation here. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Yeah, the question I have, 3 million is for Famco and 3 million for Ferguson. Are they because they different type of supplies or the specialties or that's why it's separated?
So no, they actually supply the same thing. These supply houses will pick particular manufacturers that they do carry. And so there can be certain parts of water infrastructure that two companies will make the same part. They do have small subtle differences, but essentially the same thing. You know, they'll serve the same diameter pipe, things like that. And so similar to a car dealership, you know, it's only going to carry.
Okay. So anyway, so this is basically for the water division.
Well, this particular item was set up by the Water Division and the advertisement was run through the Water Division, but it is actually citywide.
Citywide. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Arthur. Appreciate the presentation, the video. Again, I appreciate all the people that were involved in putting this together. Mr. Beeman, speaking at the podium, Mr. Howlett, and Brian Yanis for putting this thing together. One clarification for the public. As allowed by the city's purchasing policy, a blanket purchase order is an agreement established with a vendor to fill repetitive needs for goods such as water, infrastructure parts, and supplies. Is this a common practice throughout municipality government agencies?
Yes, sorry, I wasn't sure if the city attorney was going to answer, but yes, it is. This is very common in all the municipalities I've worked for. This is very common practice.
Other than that, I have no questions.
No speakers.
No
speakers, no.
And Madam Clerk, any speakers?
Chair Perrello, there's no speakers.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can have all the water and you can have everything you need, but if you don't have the right thing when you need the right thing to fix the water so that you can get the water to where you need to have the water, you can imagine. And that's why we have these contracts, so we can take care of our system for the residents and the businesses of the city of Oxnard. I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next item, item D3, Public Works and Transportation Committee again. Annual purchase order with WEX Bank for a fleet fuel card program. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to execute annual purchase orders with WEX for a total not to exceed amount of $3,665,000 from September 8th, 2024 through September 7th, 2025, utilizing the Sourcewell contract number 080620-WEX for fleet fuel card programs. Again, there is a Measure M presentation because there cannot be a presentation here. Well done. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
Chair Perrello, we have no speakers virtually or in person for this item.
My committee members, do you have any?
So the fleet reserve means all city vehicles?
Chair, committee members, Jose Arreola, Fleet Services Manager. Yes, we take care of all the fleet vehicle cards, anything that's assigned to any drivers, we take care of that.
And the other question is, is 3,666,000, is that enough funding because of the fluctuation of the cost of gas?
Yeah, we did our calculations according to fleet usage and the gallons that we've used and all that, and we came to the conclusion that that would be a sufficient amount.
Do they gas up at the yard or they gas up at a service station?
At service stations,
Is that the one over on 9th and Ventura Road?
there's
Several-
quite a
several.
bit of stations around the city. That's what makes this program a good program. They don't have to go to an actually assigned station. There's a lot of stations in the city that accept this card
That
program.
accepts it, because I see a lot of the police cars over on 9th and Ventura, you know.
Yes.
They wash the cars there too, don't they?
What was that?
They also wash the cars there at,
They have a car washing service through the WEX card program, yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Again, the people who put this item together, Mr. Yanis, Mr. Aurelio at the podium, thank you very much for doing the work. Couple of, just for the public. When you look at the numbers, they're staggering. First off, the amount for fuel, $3,665,000. That's a lot of money, a lot of money. But then when you look at what we're taking care of, first line in the background report, the Fleet Services Division of Public Works Department manages, maintains, and repairs. I repeat that, manages, maintains, and repairs the city's 964 fleet vehicles and equipment, valued at over 54 million bucks. Valued at over 54 million bucks. It would be like having a huge family and you gotta feed them every night. And that's what we got. We got a huge family. We need this stuff so that we can provide the services and have the tools for our employees to provide those services, and you gotta feed them, and the fuel is what does it. It's staggering when you look at the amount, but you also look at, ladies and gentlemen, could you imagine, something kind of silly, but could you imagine changing the windshield wipers on 900 and some vehicles? Having almost sliced a finger off one time changing a windshield washer, I can't imagine doing it. And Madam Clerk, do we have any comments on this from the public?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers for this item.
Okay,
Motion.
Second?
okay, please vote,
Thank you.
and thank you to everyone involved.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you to all involved in this. The next item, D4, is Agreement 325-00049 with Final Details LLC for citywide vehicle mobile washing and detailing services. The recommendation that the recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Final Details LLC in the amount not to exceed $1,930,000 for an initial term of 14 months from September 1, 2024 to October 31st, 2025, with the option for 4 consecutive one-year period extensions that shall not exceed a total of 5 years for a final term ending October 31st, 2029 for citywide vehicle mobile washing. Again, there's a presentation. Due to Measure M, we're not going to have it here. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this item?
Chair Perrello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
My fellow committee members? You have to say-
Eric, is are they just ER vehicles or Public Works vehicles?
Good evening, Chair, Mayor, committee members, Eric Zetz, ER Manager. This is for all of the city vehicles,
All
not just
city,
ER.
okay.
Yeah,
And it's mobile, what is it, mobile unit goes from point A to point B, is that the way it works?
that is correct.
Okay. So they used to have a vehicle wash there at the city yard, they don't use that anymore for,
Correct. The city does not have an on-site washing facility, and so we must use a mobile washing contractor.
and it says washing and detailing, what does the detailing do?
Right, so the detail is something that occurs when we have great particulate matter or great items that are on it where equipment needs to be detailed. The vehicle washes happen once each week for environmental resources, and they're as needed on the equipment.
So does final detail have more than one mobile unit?
Yes, so there's multiple mobile units that provide that washing.
Look, as the chair said, he was nearly 1,000 units, so they must run from point A to point B quite often, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the general public, if you get a chance to read this is interesting. I did not know, but it stands to reason, that we wash our garbage trucks on a weekly basis. And the reasons are, Mr. Zert, can you explain why we wash the garbage trucks on a weekly basis?
Right, so we have an MS4 permit that requires us to have clean vehicles in the city so that we don't discharge into the city's drains pollutants and contaminants and therefore, contaminate the water system. And so we've got to keep those garbage trucks as clean as possible. And so we also have, other requirements, all in keeping with state and federal and local mandates to make sure we're not contaminating waterways.
And when we talk about washing the garbage trucks, we're not just talking about the outside of the garbage truck.
That is correct, right. So it's underside, it's the top, it's inside, it's all around.
When that type of work is done, the runoff is captured, and what do we do with it?
Right, so we have containment areas on our facilities that capture that water. We also, if we have a rain event, we're mandated to test the water for pollutants. So we will make sure that any of the runoff that comes from our vehicles, it keeps with state requirements and standards.
I know from serving for the city on the Ventura Sanitation District, they have leachate coming off the landfill, and it is pretty touchy stuff. They have to take it long distances to dispose of it. We dispose of our runoff in the sewer plant, or we have to take it to an environmental site, or?
Right, so we do not produce leachate. That's a
Correct.
Landfill. For our equipment, this contract allows our trucks to be as clean as, really commuter vehicles. So we don't have a designated containment because the equipment is not producing, waste material that would be in violation. Our system and our waterway would go to our wastewater facility through our drainage systems, and it would be treated at that point.
Thank you. You've explained it, the state requirements, it's called the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, MS4 water quality requirements, including compliance and addressing the discharge of water during cleaning process. If we do not follow these, are there any ramifications, negative ramifications to the city?
Yes, there are. There could be a potential for fines. There can also be a potential for a loss of the facility permit or the use of the equipment to provide collection service. So it is very important to make sure that we are obeying those permitted rules and laws of our permits.
Okay. And again, Mr. Zert, Yanis, Howlett, and Beeman, thank you very much for this presentation. The last item, the last line under the discussion of this on page 132, it states, final details shall comply with the city ordinance number 2806 concerning the reduction of pollutants in stormwater discharges associated with mobile car washing activities. I'm hoping that we can get something before this committee about the mobile car washing facilities, because they are sort of like fly by the seat of the pants. Some of them collect, some of them have the tarps, some of them do this, and the potential runoff getting into the storm drains, we can get in, there's ramifications for that. And I know we've addressed it in the past, but I hope that we can put that on a future agenda. I'll ask that when it comes up here.
Absolutely, note taken.
Public Works Director like to address anything?
Well, I'll just say that we certainly can bring the folks here that would be addressing that from Community Development and Public Works to have a conversation about the requirements and enforcement of those permitting requirements.
That sounds like a great idea. I support this, and in that, unless there's any more comments or something, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Please vote.
And,
Motion passes 3-0.
Thanks to all involved in this item. Next and second to last item on the agenda, the outline for future water workshop. It's item D5. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee review and provide input on the proposed outline for a future water workshop with the City Council. And number 2, recommend the City Council hold a water workshop at one of the September 2024 City Council meetings. There is, again, a Measure M presentation, but because of Measure M, we cannot provide it here. This is hopefully for the citizens of Oxnard and anybody interested in costs, water, pollution, the environment. This is potential for a real down-to-earth, seat-of-the-pants, tell it like it is opportunity for people in the city of Oxnard to find out what's going on. And do we have any public comments on this, Madam Clerk?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
And I'll just speak for myself, that's sad because this is important. Can committee member comments?
No, I think we need a workshop that, so people can understand, as mentioned in the presentation. It's a very complex issue, and talks about operations, testing of the water, and also talks about the climate change and how it affects, the water and so forth, and how we treat it and distribution. And many times we get calls that the water's coming out white, or brown or whatever. But I think the way it should be explained, and how we buy it and what the cost of buying water and et cetera, et cetera. I think it's good that we have a workshop on this item. And I think it's extremely important for people to understand that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I just want to agree with Mayor Zaragoza how important this is. I've had conversations with individuals at the state level, and the need for this to also take place at the local level in Ventura County, because our water needs are not the same from other cities around us. We're in a primarily special situation, so I think it's just very important that we share this information with our residents.
The staff report identifies other agencies, may include United Water Conservation District, Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency, Callegas Municipal Water District, should they accept an invitation to attend. There are neighboring cities, Port Hueneme, there's the Channel Islands Beach District, there's City of Camarillo, there's City of Ventura. I don't know how far we want to open this up, but the water that's under the ground, there's not a wall separating this belongs to Oxnard and that belongs to somebody else. It's a combination, and how one person treats that water well and another person abuses it, it impacts everybody. And it impacts everybody with not just supply, it impacts everybody with the cost to produce the water, to supply it to the residents. I support this. I am interested in hearing from our public works staff. Is there something else that you think you would like to see here? Or a city attorney or a public works director?
Mr. Chair, can I add something, add a little bit of what you just said, right, the cost of water? Many times we have an increase in water, and the cost is a pass-through, which I think is really important that people understand that it's the cost of buying the water and the cost of pass-through from the providers, if you want to call them that. And that money has to be paid somehow, somewhere. People need to understand that we have no choice but to charge for the additional pass-through water, which I think is part of the whole operation with United, with Callegas, and those folks. So I think it's important. But having this workshop, I think it really, to convey that information to the public is extremely important. I'm sorry, I just want to share that.
I think you're 100% right. I think it's going to benefit the people that are on the council and the people who want to get on the council. This is important.
I think the PW director wants to share something.
As the mayor has pointed out in the past, and we've had other members of our city staff, Public Works included, even in a drought, when people use less water, they raise Cain, how come I'm spending so much money for the water? There is a cost incurred to keep the water system functioning and the ability to have water at the tap if something goes wrong, whether it's an emergency or all of a sudden there's a demand. Pipelines break somewhere else. You have to have a system that functions. And I see that there's some people that want to.
I think our city manager wants to.
Yeah, I just want to refocus you to make sure you approve the outline of the workshop, because you're starting to actually have the workshop.
No, I
Right,
just.
so we want to have the outline of
I
the
just-
topics you want covered.
Yeah, Mr. San Major, I think that portion is extremely important. We're not really discussing more, but to talk about that in the workshop.
Well,
I think,
the mayor's right and the city manager's right. One of the things, there are no free lunches. If I get a cup of water out of the back and it's free to me, it should be free to everybody else here. But technically, it's not free to put that water in the pipeline so it can come to my glass. There's a cost incurred. The public pays that cost. And some of the litigations that have been going on with water and very important litigations, there's going to be changes in the system. And those changes are not going to be without a cost price. And that's going to impact not just Oxnard, it's going to impact a lot of people. The outline, it's a deep outline, there's a lot of information. I don't know if we can even cover it in one meeting. We may need to have more than one meeting on this. I don't know if the city attorney or the public works director would like to weigh in, or Mr. Beeman from Water.
So maybe I'll add a couple of items, because you had asked the question, Chair, about, we made the topic about other agencies, and then you asked the question about, is there anything else that we may want to add to the outline? And maybe I'm a little biased because I wrote the outline. I'm not sure I want to add anything to it, but we did work with staff, Mr. Beeman and myself, and some outside staff members that we use for water consultation, and went through the outline. Our focus on the outline is about the agencies that either have some sort of regulatory oversight to the city, some direct relation to the city in terms of customer or provider, and potentially some legal ties in terms of contractual relationships with the city. So that's why we didn't put like City of Camarillo or City of Ventura. Certainly we can bring future discussions about the interface and the intertie between agencies like that, but I felt like it was more important for us to understand and have discussions with those agencies that directly affect or otherwise impact us, our operations, our testing, our supply, our costs, and that's why those agencies are listed. None of the topics are sacred. They could be taken off or added. We certainly can have multiple conversations. I think that if we stick to the topics, we should be able to get this in one meeting. If we hit the highlights, if we really start getting into the details of the minutia of what other agencies do and how they interact, it may take us a couple of meetings to do that, and we can certainly bring it back at a later time. If we feel like there's a little more detail on a certain topic, we can bring that topic back. But the intent here was to provide a level of overview of, what our operations look like, what are other agencies that interact with us, and to the mayor's point, other agencies that may impact our cost. There's also quite a bit of legal interaction that we have, and for example, the adjudication is a topic that's on the list. And all of those are related to reliability of water, the cost of water, and what our water future looks like. And so that opportunity is there for us to have those conversations about that, and also projects. I think it's important for us to have conversations about our capital projects, the great program that the city has embarked upon 20-some years ago is 20-some years old, right? And the industry has changed. What you can and can't do, what you want to do, the availability of water has changed. And so these topics are set up to be able to have those conversations about what may have changed in the 20-some years that we've done some of these initial thought processes and projects and what we want to do going forward. So I think the topics are really, really broad and provide the opportunity to do all those things. But we're willing to add any topics that the committee feels specifically necessary to have that conversation.
Well, how about if we do this, it's still very early in the evening. Mr. Valenzuela, what on, say, number one, the Oxnard water, what do you think are some highlights of that? And we'll just work our way down. We'll share them off. Mayor can get to number 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. But I want to say this first. These agencies are very similar in the elected officials that represent those agencies are accountable to the voters. And if you've read the newspapers, some of these elected officials have gotten in serious legal trouble. And that's not what the purpose of this meeting is or this item on the agenda. But one of the things that I hope that the public takes away is the agencies, the people that run those agencies and call the shots in those agencies is extremely important. Extremely important. Mr. Valenzuela, do you?
I think that they did a tremendous amount of a tremendous amount of work on this, and just everything on here is just necessary, as Director Wolf stated. From our groundwater to our advanced water purification facility, the recycle water. This is a great amount of work right here. That it's just going to take a long time to cover it all and be able to share it thoroughly with the public.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It's important. I can share one thing. When I first was appointed to one of these things representing the city, it was amazing how many other communities and organizations felt that they were entitled to the advanced water purification facility, that they actually called the shots on what was going to happen, where the residents of Oxnard are the ones that approved it and are paying for it. The other agencies are not paying for it. And it is a gem, and we're very fortunate to have it. Public Works is directed. It's not brand spanking new, but nobody else in the area has one. Nothing like it. And it's extremely important. The Fox Canyon, I think you served on the Fox Canyon.
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Do you have opinions on the items here?
No, I think the working with Fox Canyon, working with the Fox Canyon board is extremely important with this, because many times they're looking more for the farmer than for the cities and municipal, and so forth. So I think that item should be important. The one item that I see here that's really important, that I'm glad you put it here, Michael, is the sustainability, reliability of water and the aquifer storage. I think that's extremely important, because those aquifers, to me, I see them as bank accounts. We have bank account 1, 2, 3, 4 that we can use in the future, and potentially we can work with CAIGAs and METs to potentially help us with funding aquifer and maybe trading water, and for during drought times, when we have our bank accounts full of water, and then somebody else like Moore Park or Thousand Oaks needs water, we can trade, and so forth. So I think that kind of stuff is really important. The sustainability and the aquifers. And also work with the mission statement of the Fox Canyon. What are they looking for? That's extremely important. I understand now that they have a new head now working there. I think Mr. Pratt is now gone and somebody else is taking over. So we need to interact with those folks, which I think is important. And allocation, it's a big one. The allocation is a real big one, and again, interacting with the other cities. For example, when we had the mayor's appointment, remember
There's
go ahead.
There are 5 cities involved in the one seat called the M&I, Municipalities Industrial. The 5 cities are Moore Park, Camarillo, Ventura, Oxnard, and Port Hueneme. And those mayors vote on the representative to fill that seat. Currently, it's the gentleman from Camarillo. He happens to be the mayor, Mr. Tony Tremblay. In my opinion, he's doing a heck of a job. And the job that he's doing, why I think a heck of a job, he is starting to hold people accountable for things that have been passed by. Fines, people not paying the bills, the accounting. I'm going to brag about him. He's doing a hell of a job.
Well, maybe I just want to, I believe that now we're getting into the workshop, like the city manager said. I think, to me, this is good stuff. I mean, that's a lot of material here.
Yeah, and cut me off, cut me off if I need to be, but
I believe we're now out of.
Yeah, let's keep it focused on the outline
Yeah,
and not
thank
what
you.
the other agencies are doing.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, if I get out, okay, we're talking about Oxnard's water. We have the ability to pump water to the ground, we have the ability to buy water, and we have the ability to treat sewage water
That's right.
to create pure water. One of the things about creating sewage water into pure water, I was always under the impression we can take this drainage water and put it in the sewer plant and treat it. Can't do that. It takes entirely different treatment to make it potable, because there's something about the different stuff that's in the drainage water, heavy metals and all that other stuff.
And working with legislation, potentially we could use
Yeah.
that water for
And
potable water in the future.
So that topic is on here, the groundwater recovery, the aquifer storage and recovery, so
That's
that
there.
topic is on here. So when we get to the workshop, we can talk about
That's
all of
there.
those opportunities for direct potable reuse, indirect potable reuse, those kinds of things. So that topic is on here.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a lot of material here that we can, I think it's really, really.
it's
good
impressive. He did a good job.
material. Very good, yeah.
The Fox Canyon thing, there's some litigation, there's some differences of opinions, we're working through it.
Adjudication.
The mayor, I think, hit it on the button. The creation of the agency was a specific purpose, but it seems that it sometimes had steered a little bit more to protect one group than another group. And so the equitableness has come into play. Callegas, they supply quality water, but there is a risk involved because there is one tunnel, and they just had a presentation about it. If there's ever a severe earthquake in that area, we may lose the water that comes from them. The United Water Conservation District, they're involved in supplying us the water that they pump out of the ground, and they're involved in harvesting river flows off the Santa Clara River. They have plans for big projects coming on. There is a question still about funding for those projects, and the groundwater basin adjudication is a wild. It's legal. There's an adjudication of the Oxnard Pleasant Valley. There's already been an adjudication of the Las Posas. If we can get somebody to explain that and easily understand, it'll be great for the council members, because this is one that has flown under the radar. But number one, is important, and number two, it is expensive, the litigation. There's a long time ago, a person told me, the attorneys that are working on this now are going to pay their unborn grandchildren's college education by the fees that they will generate from this. And so far, it's come to pass.
So I think there's plenty there, Michael. That's my personal opinion, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
So all the things that you guys have the committee members have mentioned, there are topics on the outline to cover that to some extent, even to get into the details. So I also want to mention that we have extended the offers to staff members of those three agencies, and we've gotten two confirmations and one pretty sure. So I'm going to count that as a third confirmation that they'll attend. The intent is for them to provide some information about their agency and specifics of the topics that are listed on here, but also be able to ask some questions about those topics to those staff members.
Mr. Chair, are we talking of one specific meeting just for the workshop?
So right now, what we're proposing is one of the existing council meeting dates in September and make it an item, make it a long item, but make it an item on one of the specific council meetings in September.
It sure sounds to me like it could be just one item on the agenda, period. And I want to not miss this. United Water presentation at the Interneighborhood Council meeting just recently, there was a lot of focus on the dam because they also are responsible for Piru Dam,
For the
which
Freedom-
recently got changed,
Oh,
the name got
Piru.
changed. But there is a questions coming up to find the latest flood inundation. If, God forbid, the dam was chock full and it had a complete failure, we have X amount of time before the water gets to downtown Oxnard. And the plan that was put together and the maps that were approved in 2007 show it'd be 5 feet of water where we are right now. And so we're looking for the latest update on that. And the chair of the INCO asked for that detail. She didn't get the detail about the depth. And I pursued it, and I have the assistant city manager looking with other people to try and get the latest from the county on that. It's public information. We should share it. It's important. I believe it has been identified as the most pressing potential disaster that could happen to our city, that dam.
You're talking about Piru.
Yes. And there is no implication the dam is at risk, but it's just if something were to happen. So,
That's all.
any last call? Mr. Beaman, is there anything you'd like to add, or Mr. Nguyen, or
No,
no?
Okay.
L?
thank you.
Nick? No, okay. All right. Then my committee members?
That's it.
Okay.
And do we need a motion here to recommend that the city council hold a water workshop?
I'll second that.
Okay, move. Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
And I don't see any number. I forgot to ask at the end, were there any calls in that wanted to speak on that?
Chair Perrello, there's no speakers.
Thank you. So the last item on the agenda is items for future agendas. I had asked about the car washing, and maybe Development Services can address something. Is that enough information?
Yeah, so yes, the idea there is there's a couple of aspects of that, which are the permit compliance component, which is Public Works, but the code enforcement side of the house, which is community development, so we'll be able to put together something for both sides.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, any further comments? With that, this meeting is adjourned.